In the previous video, we described the meanings of all the key terms provided with the Kirkland Rao report. There was also a link to a glossary of terms. We're now going to look through a couple of sample reports where we combine the data from the parents, pupil and staff surveys and highlight some of the implications for the school from the data provided. In this video, many of our examples are from the combined report. Please note that more detailed analysis can be found in the individual reports. Here, James Ling describes why he believes Kirkland Rao surveys are an important analytical tool for his school community.
What's great about the Kirkland Rao surveys is that it does serve the stakeholders, and there are several really important reasons for that. We have a duty to the stakeholders, primarily the pupils in terms of the quality of our teaching and learning, but also to staff to make sure that we're giving them the right professional opportunities. So I think there are, within each aspect of the key group stakeholders, I think there's definitely something that assessing them gives back.
With all Kirkland Rao reports, the key findings are summarised in the first few pages. Page 1 gives an overview of participation by your stakeholder groups. It might raise a few questions. How has participation been this year, for instance? Is this something that might need to be more of a focus next year to drive up the response rate? The second page provides you with an overview of performance. At this top level, it is for you to evaluate these ratings against your aspirations for the school. Overall, the students rate the school as excellent. The parents and staff as very good. On the face of it, a very good set of scores. However, do these scores match the school's aspirations? For instance, why do parents and staff rate the school only as very good, whilst the students deem the school to be excellent? Any mismatch in ratings will always raise these sorts of questions. As we move down the page, we start to see some of the more granular details. Comparing this report with the previous report, there is cause to celebrate, as 66 criteria have improved since the last survey. It may be that you can see direct evidence of impact here for initiatives put in place since the last time you surveyed. However, 18 areas have shown significant decline. These may be aspects the school may wish to focus upon and will need further investigation later on in this report. As well as criteria where ratings have improved or declined between surveys, you can also see the aspects of the school that are clearly outstanding. Here we have design technology, electronic products, regular marking of work, handling complaints and encouraging local community activity. Another opportunity to celebrate success. There are also criteria where attention is advised, and these are certainly areas that will now require more detailed investigation, perhaps resulting in interventions and initiatives being put in place. Let's now look at comparative data, where we can see responses from each of the stakeholder groups alongside each other. Where are the similarities of views? Where are there mismatches? First, let's look at strengths. We can see that parents, staff and pupil groups rate the library facilities as outstanding, so this is clearly a strength for this school. We can see that parents and pupils rate suitable class sizes as a strength. However, the student rating is outstanding, whilst the parents is only good. Elsewhere in the strengths section, different stakeholder groups have contrasting views. Parents alone rate levels of homework as a strength. Students alone rate social and health education as a strength, and staff alone rate teaching quality as a strength. There are a lot of positives here, and of the range of strengths listed, the vast majority are outstanding. However, it does beg the small question of why the stakeholder groups have some mismatching views. It may be that your eye is first drawn to weaknesses. However, it is natural to want every single aspect of the school to be deemed as outstanding and a strength. This data is your opportunity to investigate further and then, when necessary, put in the actions required for improvement. Let's now look back at this report. The criterion that seems to jump from the page is happiness of child. all 3 stakeholder groups rate this as a weakness of this school, and it is clear that this must be a priority for further investigation. More detailed data is shown in the individual report. However, at this top-level view, it would seem that this should be a strategic priority for this school. Is this a specific issue for certain year groups? Is it a gender-based issue? We can also see the parents and staff also rate the school facilities as a weakness. Here we have a similar example with Lucy Moonan discussing how feedback about school facilities prompted action at her school.
So in terms of non-academics, the Kirkland Rowell survey data has helped us with one particular intervention. As a city school, our access to playing fields isn't immediate and on-site, which is quite often the case with urban schools. And quite often our pupils reflect that by marking down the facilities lower in the survey. And further discussion with them from there has shown us that that really is to do with space. Particularly the older pupils feel that the playground is quite small, they feel quite restricted. So it's been quite simple really to enable them to use the park that we have next to the school at some times. We've also on some occasions had duties where pupils are taken by the duty member of staff to use a field area that we have next to our car park, so that's helped. Our sixth form now also go off-site, and to an extent that's as a result of awareness of how they feel about the lack of space.
Here we also have 2 student perspectives on how this school addressed this perceived weakness.
From a direct result from the survey, there's been more freedom that the students are allowed. For example, the year 10s can go out to Radnor Gardens at lunchtime. I think this also creates more space in the school because it's quite a small school, so it's good. And also the sixth formers can now go out at lunch instead of having to eat here. So I think that's useful to sort of create more space again, but also sort of make it seem like the students have more freedom like they will later in life.
A few things have changed. I think one thing that has changed is the chapel has been divided into 2, so there's now two floors on the chapel. You have the common room on the top floor, and you have the music rooms, a new music suite, still the old music room, and now a drama room as well, which is now being implemented into the new space.
Now that we have explored the overview, let's now look at the priorities from a stakeholder perspective, particularly combining importance with satisfaction, as this is a powerful indicator to focus upon. Here we can see for each stakeholder group the aspects of the school that they deem to be the greatest importance. How can this inform the school's priorities? Are these priorities currently also reflected in the school's development plan? Are these priorities also strengths of the school? Areas with a positive correlation are shown in green. Negative correlations are shown in red. Looking at this data, what are the areas that should first be acted upon? Here we are looking at a combination of factors, areas that are most important to the stakeholders against which they are least satisfied. School security is showing as a priority for staff and students, indicating a top 5 score for importance, but a bottom 5 score for satisfaction, therefore it is colour-coded red. This was seen to be a top area to be investigated. Now let's look at top priorities for improvement. In the parents' survey, 1 in 5 parents feel that the communication between the home and the school needs to be improved, whereas in similar schools only 1 in 9 deem this to be a priority. This would suggest that this is an aspect of the school requiring further investigation. Without knowing the response of similar schools, you would be less able to determine your top priorities for improvement. Here, James Ling discusses an example from his school where parent perceptions differed from those of staff and students, and the school's response to this.
There are occasions when you can have obvious discrepancies from different stakeholder groups. One in particular was a survey about the teaching and learning at the school. The pupils had rated it very highly and they had got a very high satisfaction score, and the parents less so. And we were trying to work out why we had this obvious discrepancy. So there was obviously a lack of communication between the pupils and the parents. And I think that when we spoke about this as a senior leadership team, we obviously realised that we have been relying too heavily on the pupils to communicate the quality of teaching and learning, and that perhaps we ought to bring in some strategies to really try and make sure that the parents were aware of all the great things that were happening within the classrooms on a daily basis. So to that end, we introduced a learning walk bulletin or reflections that the head teacher would write every week, and that we would disseminate this to parents.
Finally, let's see how the data from the surveys can help inform your school's self-evaluation. In this sample, we can see how the scores given by parents, pupils and staff have fed into each of the various aspects of their school's inspection framework. This example shows questions for the Ofsted framework. Your school surveys will reflect your local inspection regime. We can see here clearly an aspect where attention is advised. Staff have rated pupil progress over time as attention advised. On the other hand, we can see parents, pupils and staff have rated other aspects of the school as good. For example, behaviour, the effectiveness of the school's actions to prevent and tackle all forms of bullying and harassment. Clearly, this feedback needs to be included in the school's self-evaluation. Does this match the views of the school's leadership team? Where does this feedback differ? Is there a mismatch? Why is there a mismatch? Here, James Ling describes why this aspect of the survey is important.
Obviously, there are different aspects to the data. We've got certain criteria that we have a specific weighting for that we look at. I really like the fact that there's a standing out from the crowd set of criteria that really pushes us on in terms of how we might perform in an inspection.
Now let's look at year group analysis. The purple line shows the schools achieved from the average of similar schools. If you remember earlier, we noted that parents highlighted communication was a top priority for improvement. Drilling down into the parental report, we can see that this is a concern in all year groups. Let's now look to see if communication perceptions have changed over time. We can see that parents' views on school communication has dipped between this survey and the previous survey. As a school, should this go into your school development plan? How might you find out what the particular concerns are? When schools have put in strategies, the surveys can highlight the impact. We can see here many of the staff criteria between the 2013 and 2014 surveys were either not improving or getting worse. The impact of improvement strategies put in place after the 2014 survey, for example, job satisfaction, are demonstrable evidence of improvement for governors, trustees, inspectors, school improvement partners and others. The Kirkland Rowell surveys provide you with high quality, robust and objective data from your key stakeholders in a clear and concise manner. This video has looked at certain aspects of the data detailed in the reports and highlighted the types of feedback you might find in your reports which might benefit from further investigation. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions about Kirkland Rowell surveys or would like more information about how we can support you, please contact our customer services.